would you equate a producer for a Broadway show to the CEO of a company?
And the janitor. Yes, very glamorous. It wasn't like I woke up one day and said I want to be a producer.
Each show is its own startup.
That's exactly right.
It's like you start over again. New team, new people.
Literally, fiscally as well as artistically.
Why would somebody put the money into the show if it's celebration if you break even?
You can't make a living, but you can make a killing. We celebrate the successes. We celebrate the failures. And we feel what a privilege it is to be a part of the theatrical community. Because if I'm a rational person, this is not where you're going to put your funds. This is not your S&P 500. This is not your real estate investment. Well, I think it helps that I am the world's biggest theater fan. I keep waiting for someone to say, please stop talking about theater already and go get a job, kid.
Welcome to Inspired to Lead. We'd like to thank our friends at Roth & Co., innovators in accounting and business advisory, for making this conversation possible. We're coming to you from New York City. I'm your host, Talia Mashiach. Today, I'm joined by Tony Award-winning Broadway producer, Sue Gilad. Sue, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to have you here. So we were introduced by a mutual friend, Bruce Leon. I know you guys were in YPO together in Forum, and Bruce is from Chicago. You know, he'll call me when he meets somebody like really amazing. He'll let me know, and he'll want to, he's a networker. He likes to introduce people. He reached out to me and he said, there's this incredible Broadway producer that's in my Forum that I really think you would enjoy meeting. I'd love to connect the two of you. I was like, that's super cool. I've never met anyone in Broadway. I was fascinated by like wanting to understand how the business of Broadway works, how you make money. And then we connected. We had a really nice conversation. We said, hey, next time in New York, we get together. It's been a few years, but when we were planning this season, I thought about you, and I just thought it would be so interesting to bring you on the show and to be able to have you share about yourself and about Broadway. And I'm just like really excited to have you here and for me to learn and for like all of our listeners to learn all about you.
You know you dressed for Broadway.
I intentionally, I had 4 outfits that I had to pick from, and I'm like, this is the one I'm going to use when I'm interviewing Sue because it has to be like a little bit dramatic.
And we have evening shows almost every night of the week. So tonight you can just sail from the studio right to the West Side.
All right. I got to get tickets from you.
Yeah, you know the right people, I think. And by the way, we have a show running on Broadway. One of them is called The Outsiders. And it's about the greasers and the socias, the haves and the have-nots. And the theme of the show is stay gold.
Ooh.
And look at you. Ooh. You're as gold as I could possibly imagine. I kind of want you on our marquee.
This was like picked just for you.
We have a lot of our shows on tour. The Outsiders is in Chicago this week. And the first day, the actors are learning the stage and how will they get from stage left to stage right and behind the stage and learning the choreography. And so it's really fun, because it could be a big mess, to see a show the first night they're performing in a new theater. In fact, some people love to do it. It's kind of like they have bragging rights because they see everything fell apart. Nobody
everything that
made
goes
their
wrong.
Entrances. Yeah, it's awesome. That's the best thing for me about live theater.
You're in this fabulous career. And first start, like what is it to be like a Broadway producer? What does that really entail? What side of it? Because, just explaining sort of how it works.
Yeah, so the producer's job is to actually find the play, or we'll say find the property. In my case, because I'm obsessed with musicals, it's find the musicals. And I spend a lot of my time doing that. Reading scripts, going to readings, just trying to figure out what story can we tell that in the 8 to 10 years that it will take to develop for Broadway, because that's about how long it takes to develop a Broadway musical, team effort. What story will be evergreen? So audiences in 10 years will still be caring about this issue. So we have to find something that is incredibly personal and yet totally universal at the same time. So 99.999% of the stuff I see or I read is not for me, thank you, because the one thing that I'm going to be working on, I'm going to spend years and years developing before an audience says, wow, I was really moved, thank you. And then, of course, there are the shows that you work for years on, and then the audiences go, well, we don't care. We don't like that one. Yeah, and that's literally like, it's your baby.
Yeah.
Like, what do we... So that's really what I do. What do I do for a living? I find and tell compelling stories. So being a producer means first find the show. And that's probably our most important
Can I ask you, are there
task.
people who are script writers for a Broadway show and like their dream is just to get their script like to you? Like, do people always try to like send you stuff and they just want to get their scripts to producers to get, or is it more of like you need to go search and find them?
We do both. We get solicited a lot. We have readers. Anything that someone I've worked with, if I've worked with you before, I will get a chance to read or watch, if it's a reading, to try to watch what it is that you've created.
Okay.
Or what, if you're making a recommendation, this is a friend of mine, please, this is worth reading, or this is a new writer. Can you have a conversation with them about maybe where their play can go next? Because there are so many theaters around the world that are specifically about development. Okay. So Broadway, the challenge for Broadway is it's a perfect mix of art meets commerce. It has to be artistically fulfilling. I'm looking at my audience and going, are they like exultant with laughter? Are they in the depths of despair, sobbing? And do we have that very satisfying ending at the end that they're just coming out thinking that the world is a magical place, right? But that's Broadway.
Yeah.
To get there, you have to see a lot of weird stuff, because our job is to push the envelope as well. We want to open hearts. We definitely want to open minds. That's what theater does. But on the Broadway level, we also want to make sure that it's the show you're going to see once, twice, 30 times. You're going to tell all your friends about it. At Moulin Rouge, the Moulin Rouge dance is called the can-can, right? Knee and kick and knee and kick. So our fans at Moulin Rouge, we call them the fans. And if you're a fan in Moulin Rouge and you've seen the show twice or 5 times and you're posting about it, we're going to try to make you feel like you're part of the family because you are making it so that our show can continue on in the face of new shows coming in.
Very cool. And how much does someone get paid? If you were to select a script, what does a scriptwriter get paid to get their script bought for?
So this is what's so interesting. It's very, very different from film. In film, you can buy a script outright and then you can do what you want with it. In theater, the author, the original playwright, maintains the rights to their show. They'll rent it to us. We say option. They'll option the property to us for a year, for 2 years, for 5 years. We have to reach certain benchmarks as producers in order to continue optioning the show. So, for example, if you initially option a show, you have to promise a developmental reading or a workshop or what we call an out-of-town tryout. Tommy, that we did in Chicago, that was an out-of-town tryout before Broadway. And once you hit those marks, you're allowed to keep developing the show. If a producer says, I want to produce your show, and then for 2 years does nothing, the rights will revert back to the writer so that the property's not dead.
Okay.
So it's really, I'm proud that it favors the writer.
Yeah.
In terms of getting paid, the writer will get paid when the show makes money.
Oh, so that's a good deal.
You hope the show makes money, and in success,
no, it's a good deal for the producer because you're not outlaying all this money for the writing, right? But it could be a big risk for the writer.
Well, we have we've optioned a show from someone who is a very well regarded writer. It depends on their history, their track record, for 4 or 5 or 6 figures. But then there are new writers that just say, will you please option this for as minimal as possible? And will you help me develop it? Even if it's just literally sitting around a table, all of us eating pizza.
Yeah.
So, and trying to read it and record it so that the writer can hear, how's the storytelling going? Because on the page is so different than on the stage.
Does the writer stay involved throughout the development once they're in it?
Oh, yes, you want them there. A million changes
it's a job.
happen.
It's like a big job. Like they get selected. It's not like, here's my script, it's all yours. It's, okay, now here's my script, and now I'm involved as part of the show.
Yeah, one of the first shows I ever produced, so it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, I want to be a producer. I loved being in the theater. I loved being in the creating things, being in a room where we're all strangers. And then 2 weeks later, you can't imagine one person being gone from this group. Like you've bared your heart and soul to them. And I loved doing that, and I just kept doing that, became an actor. I knew pretty early on that was not my path, though, because once we were out of the rehearsal room, once we were making the magic, and then we had to do it on stage 8 times a week, I was like, is there something else like this? It wasn't fun for me. There's so many actors that once they get into performance, they're doing something different every night, and they're playing, and they're making it their own. That was not me. I wanted to be in the rehearsal room making the donuts. And that's what a producer or a director, a choreographer, a lighting designer, a set designer, a costume designer, that's their job, to really make the thing happen. So I started as an actor, and then my friends that I did crazy summer stock with 30 years ago, one of them wrote a show. Steve Rosen, who I had done Surf Light Theater with, he wrote a show with his friend David. They met at summer camp in an improv class, like you do. They wrote this show called The Other Josh Cohen. I was reading this play. I was cracking up. It was so hilarious. And it was like such a beautiful story of like this mensch who's totally lost. He really wants a girlfriend. Valentine's Day is approaching. He gets a letter in the mail. The letter has an enormous check in it made out to Josh Cohen. He's pretty confident that he's not the Josh Cohen who's supposed to get this check. Moral dilemma. What do I do? Do I cash his check and my life gets better? Or do I go and find who the Josh Cohen is who the check really belongs to? Okay, spoiler alert, I'm going to ruin the show for you because I love the show so much. Does the right thing. He finds the Josh Cohen. And the Josh Cohen who he finds has this wonderful daughter who our Josh ends up falling in love with.
Oh, that's a beautiful story.
It's like, it's the most beautiful story ever. But Steve and I had done summer stock together.
Yeah.
And then 15, 20 years later, you know, it's his show that he says, I want you to read this. And that's one of the first shows I produced.
Oh, that is really cool. So, okay, a couple things. First of all, you mentioned something about you started as an actress and then realized that like that probably when you got on stage, that probably wasn't the part that you enjoyed the most, which kind of pushed you in a different part. So the one thing that's really interesting is to have that self-awareness, because I think that a lot of people, you know, they have a plan of what they want to do, and they sometimes don't always pivot when they should. And I kind of, you know, it's almost, I don't know, for me, it's kind of like this gut. Like if I'm feeling unsettled about something, it's like, wait, why? You know, because I feel like things should source you, right? Like they should feel like when you do them, it fills you up. And then things that you do that don't, that you're like exhausted afterwards is, now granted, you could push yourself outside your, you know, your comfort zone. Like for me, I go into a big room. No one really believes me about this, but it's really true. If I go into a room and I'm talking to a lot of people, because I happen to be good at that, they think that's like my nature and that's like sourcing and I'm an extrovert, but I'm actually not. I'm exhausted at the end of the night because it takes so much effort. Now, that doesn't mean I shouldn't go do that. But if that was a job I had to do every single day, there's like no way that would work for me. But I really think that when you find something that aligns for yourself, you walk away energized as opposed to walking away exhausted. And so I just think that's like an interesting, you know, piece I'm taking from like your pivot and of going from actress to being like, okay, we're going to, you know, got to be more behind the scenes because it just wasn't doing it for me.
When I was a kid and my mom would take me to all those shows, you just see these beautiful, radiant, happy faces telling you stories and you think, okay, I guess that's how you're part of it. But now especially we have so many student groups that come to see The Outsiders in particular because that is a coming-of-age story. And we tell them for every person you see on stage, there are no less than 10 people backstage, offstage, in offices, advertising agencies, social media, attorneys, everybody. You want to be a part of the theater community? There's a space for you here.
There's a lot of different opportunities.
Whatever your strength is.
Yeah.
And for me, my favorite thing is to gather the team. Like I really love to, I don't think it's a Jewish trait. I love to put people together. I'm also a very good matchmaker, I will tell you, because I've been married for 100 years. I'm like, oh, that's a nice person. They should know each other. And it's the same exact skill. Once you find the play and you've optioned the play and your heart lives with it and you know, I'm going to pick up the phone 100 times a day and say, The Outsiders, Moulin Rouge, Buena Vista Social Club, and I'll be excited to do it. If that's your show, now you have to find your team. So the next job that a producer has, we'll find our director. If it's a musical, we'll find our choreographer. In tandem with them, you'll find all of your designers. And then we work with the same teams a lot because they know what we want, we know what they want, and it becomes a family over time.
Nice.
You know, the show's like a kid, right? You raise your kid the way you think a kid should be raised, and the kid gives you a lot of information that you are completely wrong. Same thing with the show. You think it should go in one direction, and it tells you, like, I have growing pains. You're not right. I need to fly. So sometimes, because it takes so long to develop a show, there'll be people affiliated with who are not necessarily the right people for that show. And that includes the producer as well. And you'll figure it out as you go. Like, everybody gets it. If it's flying and it's feeling right, you're in the right room, you're in the right space. And then if it isn't, you know you need to change up the team a little bit.
Okay, so it's so interesting because it's a business, but almost like it sounds to me like each show is its own startup.
That's exactly right.
It's like
each
you start over again
SPV,
each time.
LLC, like literally fiscally as well as artistically.
And new team, new people, new...
And you can have a huge runaway success and then your next thing is probably going to be a failure. In fact, statistically, you will have more failures than successes in theater. because it's art. It's subjective.
Is that hard for you when you have a show?
No, it's amazing. It's like my dating life was. It's like you date someone, you go, oh wait, that one's not for me. I'm going to get better at choosing the next one.
I appreciate that if you're like looking at a script but once you get to the point which we're going to get into, you have all this money. I imagine there are investors that go along with this.
You probably want some of
Yeah,
those.
you have a whole bunch, you have a team. You're working on it for many years, as you said, and then it doesn't work out. Like that's really hard. Like you're like,
you get clues along the way.
so you break it before it gets to.
Absolutely. There are, for every show that you see on Broadway, even the not successful ones, there are 2,000 shows that started and faltered along the way.
Oh, wow. So it's not like everything gets to the end. It starts and then you kind of cut your losses at certain points. So what's the risk for the investors that decide to back a show? Like their risk is 1 in 200 if it starts, or
It's art. I can only tell you what my personal experience is, that once we have an audience, I'm always gunning for our first audience. My director will watch what's happening on stage. I will watch my audience's reactions. Are they with me? Are they leaning in? Are they gasping in surprise? Are they kind of checking their phone, although, no, wait, I'm in a theater, I can't check my phone. Are they shifting in their seats?
Yeah.
So I am always looking for the moment where I've lost my audience, and then you'll change things in development. So in preview period or out-of-town tryouts in Chicago or Boston or La Jolla, you'll be listening, making changes as you go for those weeks in advance. And then you also have a very valuable preview period on Broadway, which will be anywhere from 2 to sometimes up to 8 weeks, where our actors will perform the show at night, we'll get notes that night, rehearse the next day, implement those changes into the very next night.
Oh, wow. It's really evolving.
Oh, it's crazy. And I have no idea how they do it. You have to have crazy actor brain to do it. But there are also a bunch of theater avids, like theater obsessed people like me, who love seeing a show in previews because they know the show that I'm seeing tonight,
It's not going to be the show that everyone else is going to see.
It didn't exist yesterday. It won't exist tomorrow. And it's like there's this kind of a cool cult image around it.
So would you equate a producer for a Broadway show to the CEO of a company? Like you're
and
the one
the
in charge?
janitor. Yes, very glamorous. Yeah, because if the show does well, it's because the writing is incredible. It's because the direction is visionary. It's because the actors are luminous and take you on a journey. If a show does badly, it's your fault.
Right. If you win, you win. If you lose, it's all because you're picking the script, you're hiring the team, you're bringing them all together, and you're leading. So can we talk a little bit about what it's like to lead this group of very creative people? So what are some of the big leadership opportunities in that?
Well, I think it helps that I am the world's biggest theater fan.
Yeah.
Right? Like I grew up, Patti LuPone to me was a star. I must have seen Evita as many times as I could possibly afford the standing room only tickets. And so I love being around artists. I would love to fancy myself an artist, but just being in their presence to me is like an honor. And then I have a partner that I work with that I've been lucky enough to know since the 90s. He was working at Disney. I was doing an off-Broadway show. We were both rent heads. We stayed up all night so that we could get rush tickets to Rent, decided we'd be friends forever. So Larry and I work together very, very well. We celebrate the successes. We celebrate the failures. And we feel exactly the same way, like what a privilege it is to be a part of the theatrical community. I keep waiting for someone to say, please stop talking about theater already and go get a job, kid. Because it's such an honor and a privilege. But in terms of leadership, we try to maintain the no jerks rule. That's why we work with the same people over and over again, the people who really become your family, because you have to get related so quickly. You have to get vulnerable immediately in a space where you can ask an audience night after night to open up their heart to you in order to have a stranger who's not even in two-way communication with you open up their heart. Imagine what you need to do for yours. So we have to make sure to create and maintain as safe a space as possible so that they can just let their magic dissipate everywhere. And that's spectacular.
I love what you said. We need to celebrate the failures as much as we celebrate the successes. I just want to talk about that for a second because it's it sounds like for you that's that seems like it flows very easily for this conversation. I would say for myself, I think that's harder. But I agree with you in the sense, I'm not quite sure I agree that we would, in most businesses, we'd celebrate them equally. But I think what I would say is, I always say, don't let the lows go too low. Don't let the highs get too high. But I do believe that the big mistakes do help you learn and get better, and you get something out of it. But maybe I need to take that inspiration from you and try to be a little bit more celebratory of it, because most people, when they look back, because they made that big mistake, something much bigger came for them. Yep. It took them to that next step on their journey. But when you're in it, you're not thinking about that, so you're not really celebrating it. But that is a really good perspective to say, like, okay, I made this mistake, so therefore I'm one step closer to my success.
Our job is to make people feel the highest highs and the lowest lows. That I want you to go to the theater and say, I was wrung out by the end of this night. I felt all the things that I could possibly feel in 2.5 hours. I am done. So you're afraid of the high highs and the low lows. I seek the high highs and low lows because then I know it's effective storytelling.
That's really interesting. At least in your product, that's the product. But what about in the part of running the business side of it?
I trust my GMs. They do everything on the management side, which I think if I have a superpower, it's finding the show that's going to be the best fit for me. Maybe it won't be a worldwide hit, but I'll be really proud and honored to be affiliated with it, no matter what other people think of it. And then everything else, you have to hire teams along the way, particularly the general manager, who will do things like, well, we're going to put together the budgets and we're going to see what the potential recoupment charts are. Yeah. We had a celebration on Broadway the other week. Our show, The Outsiders, recouped, which means our investors were made whole. On Broadway, it happens less and less often now because the costs are through the roof and art is subjective. And so that was just a huge win for every single person on the team. It means we've opened those hearts and opened those minds. And the Stay Gold project that we have at The Outsiders, where we'll bring in school groups of kids who have never seen a Broadway show before. My favorite thing to do is to stand at the bottom of the mezzanine and watch them as they watch our rumble scene, which is a fight in the park. And there's all the elements, rain and mud and blood, and it's thrilling. And I will see 3 kids. It's usually 3 kids that we just turned into theater kids. And they didn't know because they didn't have access. And now there are people. My big dream, my totally irrational dream, is that one day we can afford to bring their parents as well, so that those kids, they don't have to go home and go, Mom, Dad, you'll never believe. And then Mom and Dad have no context for what they're talking about. No, Mom and Dad, they were sitting right next to you.
So I wanna talk a little bit about that, because theater tickets have gotten crazy expensive, but maybe tied to that is, you mentioned that it was a celebration just to recoup the investment, and it rarely doesn't happen so often. So then talk to me about the investors that are willing to do this. Is just because they love and support theater? What's the money behind it? Or is it, if it's a win, it's such a huge win? Or like, why would somebody put the money into the show if it's celebration if you break even?
Yeah, so my first answer to that is the irrational love that I have for the theater. Because if I'm a rational person, this is not where you're going to put your funds. This is not your S&P 500. This is not your real estate investment. This is alternative sleeve art. If you want to be at an amazing opening night party, and that's usually what I can promise.
Yeah.
Financially, I can promise you 0, nothing. I can promise you.
So this is not the place to get rich.
Well, you can't make a living, but you can make a killing.
You can.
You can, yes. Okay. I think investors will come on board if they want to be part of something exciting.
Okay.
Sometimes if there's someone affiliated with the show who they'd like to meet. I remember we were co-producers on a really fun show called Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. And Josh Groban starred in that show on Broadway, his Broadway debut. And there were some people who just, you know how people feel about Josh Groban. And they said, can I meet him opening night? Sure. So that was, people come in for different reasons. Sometimes we have supporters of the theater who are also interested, like individual theaters on the road or merch companies or lighting and sound companies that in exchange for putting money into the show, they'll be able to get the show in success.
Oh, that's
They'll be
interesting.
able to benefit
Like a barter a little bit.
a little bit.
What's
yeah.
the total budget of an average show?
So for Moulin Rouge, which opened on Broadway in 2019, it was an outlier at the time, 28 million, which in today's dollars is probably at 34, 35 million.
Wow.
I think even my mother said, I believe that was the word she used. But, again, I grew up with Moulin Rouge, the film. It was thrilling to me. I was honored to be part of it. For The Outsiders, which opened on Broadway 2 seasons ago and also won the Tony Award for Best Musical, it was a $22 million raise all in. But you do it over time. You had mentioned in the beginning when all you have is an idea,
Yeah.
we call that front money. And the front money investors will, in success, benefit from producer points as well. So the earlier you come on board, the better the possibility for your returns are. But it's so subjective because it's about ticket sales and merch. And then where will the show go after Broadway?
Yeah.
For me, I'm very interested in the international expansion of my shows because Broadway is one market, but The Outsiders is on a North American tour we just launched in September, and audiences all over the place are discovering this show for the first time. And I love hearing them gasp as one. I know no one in that house has seen this show before. Moulin Rouge is on tour. Buena Vista Social Club, The Who's Tommy, will go on tour across North America. Moulin Rouge is also playing in Europe right now.
That's amazing. So that's your scale, is to grow it, is to go international.
Sometimes you need Broadway just to say as seen on Broadway so that it can go everywhere else. But really going out on tour is a better fiscal advantage.
Is there anyone is it every single show is your own independent team, or do you have anyone that works within your organization across everything, like your key people?
I have key people. Larry and I do everything together. We finish each other's sandwiches. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Okay, because it's a movie and it's also a musical. So,
Yep.
And then we have our team for our office because, like what you were talking about with events, we also do a lot of events, bringing people to theater. So I think seeing the show is magical, but then also what can we do around the show so that you can feel like you knew a little bit of what happens backstage, offstage. How does it get done?
That's cool.
So we do a lot of events around that. Sometimes we'll bring in one of our dance captains and they will teach the rumble choreography so people can learn stage combat and they can and they watch it on stage and go, I know how to do that. I can do that. That's a piece of cake.
Wow, that's really cool.
Or we meet a star and we have them tell stories of how many auditions they had that were epic failures before they got this huge starring role on Broadway.
That's very cool. Do you have to, is there an inner group, you have to know people to get into any of these positions in Broadway? Or is it kind of you have to know someone who knows someone because it's a very elite community? Or is it?
I think you start. I think you open the door by starting. I will always tell new artists, you're crazy about theater? Go see something. You can go see free theater in New York City every single night. There's student shows, non-professional shows, workshops, everything. Sit down, not in the end. Sit down in the middle, take a deep breath. It's going to be weird for a minute. And then turn to the person next to you, say, hi, my name's Sue. What brought you here today? And then you never know where that relationship is going to go. For me, it's because I did theater as a performer for years in my 20s without thinking I have a vision, just thinking, this is my happy place. But then my friends turned out to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And then sort of brought me along for the ride. So now whenever there's a new artist, I will always try to tell them, here are the doors that you want to open for yourself. And it's very, when I was a young actor, forget about internet, there were no cell phones. So, But now you can create your own brand. You can create your own content. You can create your own community. You can find your tribe. So that you have to be a little industrious and entrepreneurial, I think, to be an artist these days, to be a theatrical artist, because theater, unlike any other form of art, cannot be done alone.
Can you walk us a little bit through and maybe over the guys? It's is it the marketing element, the brand element, but what was it when you probably started and what has evolved and how has the industry evolved to kind of social media and branding and everything else that we see today?
For good and for bad. social media drives a lot of our sales. So you'll see in Moulin Rouge, we had Boy George starring in the show. Now Meg Donnelly is starring in the show. She's fantastic. So we'll bring in different elements. Chicago, the show Chicago, does this very well. Brings in lots of guest stars from all around the globe to bring in new audiences. I think it's a win when you have someone sitting in a theater, any theater, but we're on Broadway, so we'll say a Broadway theater, who's never been there before. And for them, it should be an event. And you should be dressed up because it's the pinnacle. I think that Broadway is the pinnacle. But it's extraordinarily expensive to produce on Broadway, labor costs and demands and things. We have all these initiatives like the Stay Gold Project. We also have the Matinee Mission at Buena Vista Social Club, where we'll also bring in school groups. It doesn't cost them anything, and they will have their first magical experience. And at the Outsiders, we also have a student study guide that goes along with that. So the teachers can actually do weeks of programming, in addition to reading the book, The Outsiders, where they can really dig deep into the themes, and then the themes come to life for them. One of the greatest challenges is ticket sales anywhere. So I'm always reminding everyone that at any of the incredible performing arts schools in New York, they have free or close to free tickets. These people are going to be on Broadway in a matter of months or years. Catch them beforehand.
Go see going to different shows. Like not Broadway shows, but just other...
I'm happy when I'm sitting in an audience.
Right.
I don't really care.
It doesn't need to be Broadway.
I'm just going to be sitting silently in the dark as someone swirls a story around me and I get lost in that. Juilliard, the LaGuardia, High School of Performing Arts, Marymount Manhattan, Pace, NYU, Columbia. They all have incredible programs and they all have shows. Yeah. Go see those shows. If you're a young thespian or you're a young writer, you should be out every night. This is your craft.
Yeah.
You should be studying it. So Broadway, I think, is a special experience. We are trying to make it more accessible for young audiences. Shows like Hamilton and Six and Juliet are making it easier for us to bring in younger audiences because they tell stories that really vibe with young people. We see with The Outsiders that we hit a very challenging demographic, which is a teenage boy. It's not what you think. They're dying to go to the theater, but every time I'm in there, we watch from the back of the house, or the back of the audience, and kids come out with and they're throwing their arms around their moms and they're sobbing and they're going,
wow.
We have to come back with Dad. We have to. And like, game changer.
That's awesome.
Right? Like we just made
How
another
does that
kid
feel
a theater kid.
When you see that?
That just, it gives me all the hope for humanity. And there are crazy studies that say a kid who's a theater kid is going to stay in school longer. They're going to be more confident. They're going to be good in front of a room. They're less prone to depression. I mean, you know, and the places that need it the most are the places where the theater programs have been cut. If we had 1% of what the sports programs have, I think it would change society. Every so often when we do teen events, we'll get one parent that says, listen, just so you're clear, my kid's going to law school. My kid's going to be an accountant. And I say, no problem. Hey, watch your kid during this. Why don't you join in on this improv class? Why don't you see what it's like with the audition skills that this child needs to go into the room and create and maintain this atmosphere. This kid is going to be an unbelievable public speaker. This kid who's taking this improv class right now is going to know how to dip and spin when things don't go her way. So all the theater kids, they become very malleable and very adaptable for leadership positions. Like
that makes a lot of sense. And I also, I've been seeing, you know, so my kids are in all-girls Orthodox school. And for sure, when I was younger, and for sure even my older girls, if you wanted to do something in theater and you were only going to perform in front of female audiences, you were limited. Like, so even if you had idea that you want to do that, my sister-in-law is like an incredible everything when it comes. Like, she's so talented. And I know she felt like, what am I going to do with this talent? What can I do? And now I am seeing more and more. I open up, you know, Ami Living magazine, and there's like 4 different productions of by female, 4 female audiences selling out huge theaters where all of these girls, it's like now like opened up the opportunity for them if they are artistic and talented and want to be able to bring that at a different level. They now have that that channel to be able to do that, that audience to be able to do that. And this is new. Like, I feel like this is in the last couple of years. I had Shandy Plotzker on, who is a singer and who's really broken ceilings within Orthodox women. She's doing this huge show coming up in March at the arena, and I think it's in New Jersey, and it's like thousands and thousands of seats that she's filling up because she's figured out how to be an incredible performer, and she's filled, and I watch her shows and I'm watching all the girls and they're singing and they're dancing. She has young girls on the stage with her, which is amazing, but I'm seeing it now in the plays also. I literally saw 3 different plays. They're all in New York right now. We're hoping that maybe they come to Chicago or other places, and I know even my sister-in-law is directing like an all women's play. And it's just, I love it. It just it's like this feeling, because I think it's so powerful and so important especially for girls to have the outlets that you could celebrate that creativity. And it's an opportunity to make them feel good about self. It can't just be that if you're a good student and you get into the right, college or seminary or school, like that's what success looks like. Being able to have the artistic, girls and women celebrated as well, I think is so important. And the other thing I'll add is that one of the things, so I'm very focused on what's going on with AI and how it's changing the world. And one of the biggest things that we're hearing is that the old school was, okay, your kids are most creative when they're up to like little kids, 3 years old, 4 years old. Like the creative mind at that time is huge. It drops by the time a kid is like 10 years old. It apparently drops by like 80%. Why? Because we're putting them from kindergarten. Now they're not playing anymore. Now they're sitting in desks lined up, follow this, follow that. This is what you need to do. And the future of where AI is going to be doing so many of these tedious tasks, it's going to be completely in those who are creative. It's to be the ones who have the ideas, the ones who have the juices. So I really think that education is ultimately going to have to change to keep that creativity that we have from those kids in kindergarten, bringing it forward, because we don't need to teach everybody how to cross their T's and dot their I's, because we're going to have machines that do those things. But what we need to do is unleash the creativity and the ideas. And probably it sounds like theater and arts are going to be such a big part of that.
I like this plan that you have.
I'm just like looking what's going on, and I can see the writings on the wall.
We say that in a digital world, we are proudly analog, that theater is going to matter more and more as what people are seeing on screens becomes less and less reliable. It's right in front of your eyes in a theater. So we don't need technology as much as, say, other industries might, because we've been doing this probably the longest, and it seems to be working out okay so far.
Also, you know what? You're going to be able to make a movie with AI, but what's going to become so rare and such an opportunity is to go live on stage. Nothing is going to be able to replace the live experience, the talent of the actors in real life. Like there's no technology that's going to be able to replace that. So I do think we're going to come back around to the appreciation of this more so than ever before in the next few years. So what I'd love to do is take us a little bit about COVID, because I feel like that was like a major changing point for lots of different companies. I imagine on Broadway, when everything was shut down for a lot longer, and in certain cities, different rules, like what was that for your industry?
I think I remember, so Broadway shut down on March 12th. We actually had a matinee of Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge was the only show, the Thursday matinee. The audience was sitting in their seats. An usher didn't feel well. So the audience went home. And we thought, it was not a great look.
And you guys, did you have to give everybody their money back?
Oh,
or they just got a credit to the next show? Or
what credit? Who show? Yes. So first of all, yes, of course they get their money back. But then the bigger issue was we thought, oh my gosh, Broadway's going to close down for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And people literally left, an orange or a banana on their dressing room table thinking like, well, it's all right, another week, another 2 weeks. 18 months later.
Wow.
And the tricky thing for theater is that everything that COVID told you, which is maintain 6 feet. 6 feet. We actually tried to map one time how many people could fill 1,000-seat theater honoring the rules of COVID.
Yeah.
200?
Yeah. Maybe.
So it was like, even when we came back after COVID, the idea of someone sitting here next to you, my mother didn't come back, still has not come back to a theater. She doesn't feel safe. So for us, it was, okay, guys, how do we keep these skills alive We did so many classes on Zoom. We had our dance captains teaching dance combinations, and everyone's in their little box, and then someone would like crash into a lamp because they were like dancing backwards and like, oh, sorry, or hitting a wall. I mean, it was so crazy. We did all these sing-alongs with Broadway stars where they'd have 100 kids and the kids would be like on mute. So they'd be like, and then one person would be singing. We just tried
Was it like creativity just to make money? Like, I mean, because what did people do? They had especially like they had no money coming in.
This is one of the big challenges for theater is if you're fortunate enough to have a family that will support you or can support you or a flexible day job. Now it's easier with the internet, but when I was a kid, if you don't have that, then you're going to enter your family's business or you're going to go to law school or you're going to become a real estate agent
really
because you're so
into
charming.
Theater like thinking this is 100% going to be my living.
As a performer?
Most people.
No. As a creative? No.
Okay.
No.
Most of them had other jobs.
Or you're lucky enough to have one success and that success will buoy and underwrite your next and keep it going until you have a runaway hit.
So you are in this industry because you love it. Like it sounds like this is not the place to make lots of money.
I would be happy to pay someone so that I could have this life.
Wow. I love that passion.
And I tried to do I don't know how to do other things. And my poor kids, I shoved it down there. I was like, come on, you guys. You want to talk to me about something? Talk to me while we're at the theater. You're going to see a new show. And my kids could not care less in the best way.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, I'll go see your show. Can we go to a basketball game tomorrow? And I'm like, basketball? You won't learn a story. You won't get a point of view. You won't have empathy. They're like, but it's fun. Like, okay, we'll go to a basketball game.
Are any of them in theater, your kids?
No. Okay, they don't care.
Yeah.
They have great perception. They're terrific critics. When the outsiders, when we did our big out-of-town tryout at La Jolla Playhouse in California, Ben, my baby, he was 14. The leading character in The Outsiders, Pony Boy Curtis, is 14. His best friend, Johnny Cade, is 16. Ben saw the show. He was watching a mirror of himself. After the show, he had one incredibly insightful note. He said, there's a moment in Act 2. I don't believe it. Here's why. That was exactly what the show needed. I mean, the show needed quite a few things, but that one point that Ben made got implemented into the show.
Oh, wow.
He was not the only person who said it, but he got it because it's a lived experience for him. So my kids have seen everything. They are outstanding critics. And I got an economics major, a psychology major, and a guitar player.
Wow. You know what I'm picking up as we having this conversation? I feel like you are so open to feedback. You're not scared of failure. You embracing, as you said, celebrating the failures even because it's just takes you to that next level. And I just think that those are like amazing traits. And I think it's those traits that keep people from getting to, I think it's those traits that like keep people from unleashing their full power of what they could possibly do in this world because they're scared to fail, because they're scared to get feedback. That's not what they want to hear because they look at themselves only for what they can't do versus what they can do. And they don't necessarily realize that you have to go through all of these mistakes or failures in order to unleash everything that's possible for them. And I'm just curious, like, where does that come from for you?
The actors say, 20 auditions, 1 callback. 20 callbacks, 1 job. So how many auditions is that? 399 rejections. So rejection is one thing. Rejection to me never means no. It means not now, thank you. It means not me, so what doors can I open up to you now that I've said no to you? And I'll use that for anything in my life. But particularly when you walk in the room and say, please love me, please pick me for this role. And then the casting director, if you look at that no as a no forever, you're missing the opportunity that they know me and they're going to remember me for the next job, the next show. So when a show doesn't land with a specific audience, I go, okay, who will care? And that's a question I ask always about my shows. Does it get me in the gut? Will anybody else care? And will they care so much that they will raise high the flag for this show like I will as well? Our industry is rejection-based. First of all, society says no to theater. Let's start there. Western society, particularly American society, we don't support the theater, even less and less now. So as an industry, we're already not as relevant. We're told we're not as relevant as sports, as mock trial, as anything.
Yeah.
But then when you go in there and you have thousands and thousands of people wanting to do what you do, you just have to get the right team behind you to care and to cheerlead for you and with you, and then game changer.
I think what you said makes a lot of sense, is that the rejection. So if you're going to go into theater, you have to be ready. You kind of assume you're going to get rejected multiple times, and you got to pick yourself up and go back. But I think that can apply to so many things in business, in life, in career, even in sales. If you're calling and they might say, like you said, not right now, but that doesn't mean that that person you're talking to might not have a need for your product later. It might not mean that they go to a different role and then could use it at another time. Even if you want a job, right? If you want a specific job.
There's nobody like a theater person in a grown-up job, like a real job. They excel. There was an article in the New York Times a few years ago that said all these amazing, huge business successes all started as theater kids. And it's because you have such a statistic of rejection in the theater that when you go to real life and someone says yes to you, my husband and I met, we were both extras on a commercial for Pizza Hut, right? And you don't do anything as an extra. You just sit around all day and talk. And I'm talking to this kid who just finished acting school after finishing the army in Israel. And he was so mysterious to me and fascinating, He got no all the time because he's Israeli, so he had an accent. So they were 9 times out of 10, it was not what they were looking for. So he ended up doing print modeling. He would look like the guy that you want to be. And after a while, he said, I'm not sure that this is not what I signed up for Chekhov and for Shakespeare, and what I'm getting is smile pretty, flex your muscles. That's not what I want to do. So when he moved to an industry that actually he could build momentum, he found wild satisfaction because he was getting yeses. He was like, if I had known there were this many yeses, I would have started here.
That's amazing. Okay, one more question for you, and then we'll go into our Fast Five. How has anti-Semitism in October 7th affected, if at all, the theater industry, your personal experiences?
It has been difficult for me to be a part of the Broadway community. There are some voices that I value and so appreciate, Deborah Messing, Seth Rudetsky in the theater, that are saying, hey, Jews support everyone else. Now we need your support. My eldest was in Israel on October 7th doing an internship, and my husband said, she's fine. And I said, American, please come home now. And I don't think she's okay since then. My husband, since October 7th, has been rallying every kind of support imaginable for Israel. He's like a different person since then. I noticed that even though I love being out and being among people, and I can certainly pass, I feel safer among Jews. I probably hear things that I shouldn't hear because I look the way that I do. People are much freer now to express negative opinions about Jews, which is really hurtful to me. My dad's a Holocaust survivor, so he said a few months ago, I wish I wasn't alive to see this in America. I came to America so that my family would be safe. So this has been a very trying personal journey for us.
And has that changed anything for you in terms of your Broadway experience or view of Broadway? Or have you been able to influence anybody else there who maybe, because a lot of it is just stemming, I think, from either being ignorant and just being gullible and listening to propaganda, or just inner hatred, and regardless whether it's to anyone. They want to blame it, right now, maybe to Jewish people, but that if you're hating of anybody, you could be hateful of everyone.
Yes. So with my work and my shows, because they take such a long time to develop, it's a difficult thing to bring out the world's most beautiful show. There is a show that's opening on Broadway that I'm so excited about called Giant, that I'm going to bring all my Jewish groups to. But I think my job as a theater person is to allow you to step into shoes that you don't have access to and to have empathy for that situation. So I feel like if I do that, no matter who my character is, I'm doing something to open someone's heart that maybe the next time they say something hurtful, whether it be to a Jewish person or any other kind of person, they'll think twice. But I've raised my kids to be very, very proud. I would say we're more Israeli than anything else. My kids speak fluent Hebrew, are as comfortable in Israel as they are in America, go to Jewish day schools, will happily go toe-to-toe with anybody, and are very proud to be Jews and Israelis. And I think for me, that's my most important contribution. I will do what I can in work by being someone who other people want to be around, who want to create and generate things that are positive. But I think my legacy is really with my family.
Well, thank you. That was amazing. I have some questions, like we call them our kind of fast five questions that I'd love to ask you. Was there a moment where you felt like you hit rock bottom, and then how did you climb out from it?
You hit rock bottom every time people don't love your show. And every time that happens, it gets a little bit easier, but it's still hurtful. It's you want to say, why don't you see what I see? How incredibly beautiful this is. And it does get a little bit easier over time, but it's never easy.
What sacrifices did no one see you make to get here?
I'll answer that a different way, okay? Because I don't actually think like that. I believe very firmly that women in particular, we can have everything. We just can't have it at the same time.
I agree with you.
So I was having a career, and then I was having my kids, and I was doing voiceovers, and I would bring a stroller with a kid in it to a voiceover. So crazy. I would go to voiceover booking, and I would call one of my actor friends and say, just meet me downstairs, and all you need to do is walk the kid around for 40 minutes. If they break their head, if they whatever, it'll be fine. I'll be back down in 40 minutes. And then there was one crazy day that a friend of mine said that she could be there, and she wasn't there.
Oh, gosh.
And so I brought the baby up. What are you going to do? And I brought the baby up, and you know how it is when you bring a baby. And I thought, this is the end of my career, and everybody went, and I was like, oh, something just opened for me here. Like, I'm allowed to bring this part of my world into here. So you're asking me, what did I sacrifice? I'll answer the question by saying I set up systems as much as I possibly could of support and backup support so that I wouldn't have to sacrifice. I was very fortunate in that when my first kid was born, my mother-in-law moved here from Israel to be the world's greatest savta, honestly. But I knew every moment that I left Noah with her, she was in the best hands. And she taught me how to be a mom.
That's amazing.
So in the beginning, I had trustworthy systems where if I was in work mode, because I think as a mom,
Yes.
when you're in work, there's always something's going wrong. So anyway, I tried to set up as many systems of backup so I wouldn't have to worry and I wouldn't have to sacrifice. And that just took a tremendous amount of logistics and time.
What was the one thing you were afraid to do, but you did it anyway?
Oh, God, if I thought about that, I'd be afraid of everything. I don't think too much. I do the things that I absolutely love that afterwards I think are scary. You know what was scary? When my daughter turned 18, she said, I gave her the words that I will never say again. Anything you want for your birthday, honey.
Oh, gosh.
She was like, great, skydiving. And I was like, funny. And she was like, no, skydiving. And so I was like, well, look, if you're going to jump out of a plane, I'm going to catch you. So I went skydiving with her.
Wow.
I don't recommend. I mean, the moment that you fall out and you're literally flying is magical. And then they pull up and you're like, oh, I don't feel so hot. But I would catch my kids. That's the most important thing for me.
Was there ever a time that you wanted to quit, but you didn't?
Quit what? What would I quit? I would say pivot is the thing for me. Like people send me plays a lot. And much as I want to be lofty and erudite and intellectual and read plays and produce plays, let's be honest, I'm always sitting in an audience waiting for the song to start. So why would you send me a play when I'm not going to be the best champion for you? So what I try to do is I try to be true to what I'm most excited about, and then the right people gravitate towards me because they're going to be excited about that too.
In this whole journey that you've had, when you could pick like one of the most exciting moments.
It's now.
Really?
Of course. It's sitting with you. You're wearing my Stay Gold outfit. All right. So we have a few shows that the shows win Grammys, Jagged Little Pill, and just a few weeks ago, Buena Vista Social Club. And if you want to feel good in life, you just put on the album for Buena Vista Social Club. You can't help dancing along and smiling. It's so magical. That's maybe one of the first shows I'll recommend you see, because Buena Vista Social Club, special. But when everybody gets dressed up and it's a night at the Tony Awards, and I think it's kind of, on the one hand, ridiculous, because how do you compare? Like, what's better, Picasso or Gauguin? How do you, on some level, everybody wins, but also because it's every year and we have new work coming out all the time, it's almost always somebody's time to shine. So when we earned the Tony Award for The Outsiders, and I didn't think it was going to be us. I thought it was going to be Alicia Keys' show, Hell's Kitchen. But when we were up on stage, Angelina Jolie is one of our fellow producers, and she came to the Tony Awards, and our leading producer spoke to Susie Hinton, who wrote the book when she was 15 years old, and she sat there at the Tony Awards. It was very, very full circle. It was a really incredibly special moment. And, people just acknowledge you for the hard work you've been doing for such a long time. Like they say, I see your vision, I honor your vision, I'm aligned with your vision. And that's all I want.
That's beautiful. All right, final. You have the opportunity to leave a message with our listeners. What would that be?
So many times women are told no unconsciously and subconsciously. You can politely acknowledge that and then choose to ignore. You have to be the yes so that the next generation can have everything accessible to them. It's not just about you. It's about the example that you're showing for the future.
I love that answer. That was amazing.
This episode was made possible by our friends at Roth & Co. We are grateful for their continued partnership. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and that you'll join us for the next one. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch this conversation on YouTube, so be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until we meet again, stay inspired to lead.